This is Mr. Eugene, and today we're shifting gears completely. We've talked about why men are walking away from the dating market. We've examined why women are panicking about the invisible men they overlooked. But today, we stop talking about them and start talking about you. How do you use this newfound clarity, this hard-won peace, to build a life so genuinely fulfilling that you don't even think about the dating market anymore? Today we're examining the 5 pillars of what I call the new male era, the most powerful version of yourself you've ever been. And before we get into this, let me tell you why this video matters more than any other video on this channel. Because everything else we discuss, all the patterns we expose, all the dysfunction we identify, it's all diagnosis. This is prescription. This is the actual path forward. And I need you to understand something. I'm not giving you this framework because I read it in a book or heard it from a guru. I'm giving you this because I've watched men implement it and transform completely. I've seen men go from bitter and resentful about what women took from them to genuinely content with what they built for themselves. And that transformation, that shift from reactive victim to proactive architect of your own life, that's what this is about. So if you came here for more content about women's dysfunction, wrong video, this is about you becoming so powerful in your own right that their dysfunction becomes irrelevant. Stay with me. The new male era isn't about rejection of women. It's about transcendence of the need for female validation. It's not about bitterness toward relationships. It's about building something so valuable that relationships become optional rather than essential. It's not about isolation. It's about intentional construction of a life that serves you completely. Let me break down the 5 pillars that make this possible. Pillar 1, radical ownership of your time. The first pillar of the new male era is reclaiming complete ownership of your time, not just your schedule, your time. Every hour, every day, every week, designed intentionally around what you value rather than what others demand. Most men have never experienced this. They went from living under parents' rules to living under employers' demands to living under wives' expectations. Their time has always belonged to someone else. They've never actually designed a life. They've only responded to others' designs for their life. The new male era starts with a radical question. If nobody was watching, if nobody was judging, if nobody's approval mattered, how would you structure your days? Not how society says you should, not how women say you should, not how your parents or friends or anyone else says you should. How would you structure your days to maximize your fulfillment, your growth, your peace? And here's what I've discovered, watching men do this exercise, honestly. Their ideal life looks nothing like the life they're living. Nothing like it. They're spending 40 hours a week at jobs they tolerate to fund lifestyles designed to attract women they don't even like. They're sacrificing weekends to social obligations they resent. They're performing hobbies that look good rather than pursuing interests that fulfill them. Radical ownership means burning all of that down and rebuilding from first principles. What do you actually want to do with your limited time on Earth? For some men, it's mastery of a craft. Woodworking, mechanics, art, music, whatever. Pursuing excellence in something tangible that produces visible results. For other men, it's intellectual pursuit. Reading, learning, understanding complex systems. For others, it's physical challenge. Training, competing, pushing bodily limits. For others, it's building and creating businesses, projects, contributions. The specific content doesn't matter. What matters is that it's yours, chosen intentionally, pursued without apology, structured around your fulfillment rather than others' expectations. And here's what happens when you implement this. You stop being available for others' convenience. You stop saying yes to social obligations that drain you. You stop prioritizing others' demands over your own growth. You become, for possibly the first time in your life, selfish with your time in the healthiest possible way. This terrifies people around you because your unavailability for their convenience forces them to confront that they were using you. Your friends who only called when they needed something suddenly have to find other solutions. Family members who expected you to drop everything for their drama suddenly discover you have boundaries. Women who kept you orbiting as emotional support suddenly find you're not available for that role anymore. And their discomfort with your boundaries is the signal you're doing it right. Because people who valued you would respect your time. People who used you resent your boundaries. Let them resent it. You're building something here. You're constructing the foundation of a life that actually serves you. And that requires jealous protection of your time because time is the only non-renewable resource you have. Money you can make more of. Relationships you can rebuild. Opportunities cycle back around. But time, once spent, is gone forever. The men who thrive in the new male era treat their time as sacred, not because they're antisocial, but because they understand that a life well lived requires intentional time allocation. And you can't intentionally allocate time if you're constantly giving it away to whoever asks loudest. Pillar 2, financial independence. As freedom. The second pillar is achieving financial independence not as wealth for display, but as freedom from obligation. Most men pursue money for the wrong reasons, to impress women, to keep up with peers, to signal status, all external validation that leaves them empty even when they achieve it. The new male era reframes financial pursuit entirely. You're not building wealth to impress anyone. You're building wealth to free yourself from dependence on anyone. Financial independence means different things at different levels, but the principle is universal: reduce your needs, increase your resources, eliminate dependence on others' approval for survival. At the basic level, it means eliminating debt. Debt is slavery. Every dollar you owe is a claim someone else has on your future labor. Every payment you make is freedom you're surrendering. The new male era starts with aggressive debt elimination because you cannot build a life of freedom while chains of obligation bind you. Next level, building margin. This means living below your means, not as deprivation, but as strategy. Creating space between income and expenses that gives you options. Options to say no to work that destroys you. Options to pursue opportunities that excite you. Options to walk away from situations that don't serve you. Margin is freedom. Lack of margin is prison. Next level, building assets that generate passive income. This isn't get-rich-quick fantasy. This is patient, strategic building of income sources that don't require your direct time input. Investments, businesses, real estate, intellectual property, whatever matches your skills and interests. The goal isn't becoming a billionaire. The goal is reaching the point where your assets cover your lifestyle without your labor. Why does this matter for the new male era? Because financial dependence keeps you trapped in dynamics you'd otherwise leave. How many men stay in soul-crushing jobs because they need the income? How many tolerate toxic relationships because they can't afford to leave? How many surrender their values because financial pressure forces compromise? Financial independence removes those pressures. You can walk away from the job, you can exit the relationship, you can maintain your values because your survival doesn't depend on others' approval. And here's what happens psychologically when you achieve this. Scarcity mindset disappears. When you're not operating from financial desperation, you stop making desperate decisions, you stop tolerating what you shouldn't tolerate, you stop accepting treatment you shouldn't accept. You operate from abundance because you have abundance. This changes how others perceive you. Desperate men look desperate. Abundant men look confident. Confidence attracts opportunity. Opportunity builds more abundance. It's a virtuous cycle that begins with the decision to build financial independence as your primary goal. Now, I need to address something directly because I know some of you are thinking it. This sounds great, but I'm starting from nothing, or I'm too old to build wealth now, or my circumstances make this impossible. Stop. Those are excuses. Men have built financial independence from worse starting positions than yours. Men older than you have done it. Men with more obstacles than you have done it. The question isn't whether it's possible. The question is whether you're willing to do what's required. And what's required is simple but not easy. Live below your means, eliminate debt aggressively, build skills that increase your earning power, invest consistently, and give it time. That's it. Not complicated. Just difficult because it requires delaying gratification and maintaining discipline when everyone around you is spending on depreciating assets to impress people they don't like. The new male era requires this pillar because you cannot build the life we're describing while chained to financial dependence. The freedom required to pursue the other pillars costs money, not massive amounts, but enough that financial stress would prevent implementation. So handle this. Make it priority one, not to impress anyone, but to free yourself from needing anyone's approval to live how you want. Pillar 3, physical dominance of your domain. The third pillar is becoming physically capable and maintaining that capability throughout your life. This isn't about bodybuilding or competitive athletics unless that's what calls to you. This is about refusing to let your body deteriorate into weakness and dependence. This is about maintaining the physical capability to handle whatever life demands without requiring others' assistance. Modern society has made it easy to become physically useless. You can live your entire life without significant physical challenge. Office work requires nothing. Streaming entertainment requires nothing. Modern conveniences handle everything that used to require physical capability. And this creates men who are physically weak, dependent, and increasingly fragile. Men who can't change a tire, can't lift their body weight, can't walk 5 miles without exhaustion, can't defend themselves or others if required. The new male era rejects this completely. You maintain physical capability not because someone's watching or judging, but because physical weakness is vulnerability. And you're building a life where you're not vulnerable to others' assistance or approval. This means resistance training. Your body needs muscular strength to function optimally. Not massive muscles necessarily, but functional strength that lets you move well, lift what needs lifting, handle physical challenges without injury. This requires consistent resistance training 2 to 4 times per week, not negotiable. This means cardiovascular capability. Your heart and lungs need to efficiently deliver oxygen. This requires regular challenging of your cardiovascular system through activities that elevate heart rate sustainably. Running, cycling, swimming, rowing, whatever you'll actually do consistently. This means mobility and flexibility. Your body needs to move through full ranges of motion without pain or restriction. This requires consistent stretching, mobility work, and movement practice that maintains joint health and prevents the stiffness that makes older men fragile. This means proper nutrition. Your body needs quality fuel to maintain capability. This means adequate protein for muscle maintenance, sufficient vegetables for micronutrients, healthy fats for hormone production, and limited processed garbage that inflames and ages you. Why does this matter beyond obvious health benefits? Because physical capability creates psychological resilience. When you know your body can handle physical challenge, everything else becomes less intimidating. Stress that would break others becomes manageable. Challenges that would defeat others become opportunities. Physical training is also psychological training. The discipline required to train consistently when you don't feel like it builds discipline that transfers everywhere. The mental toughness required to push through physical discomfort builds toughness that handles life's difficulties. The confidence that comes from physical capability radiates into everything else. And here's the part nobody discusses. Physical capability is increasingly rare, which means it's increasingly valuable. Most men are soft, weak, and declining. If you're fit, strong, and capable, you stand out dramatically. Not to impress women, though that's a side effect, but to command respect, to project competence, to demonstrate that you're different from the declining masses. The new male era man doesn't accept physical decline as inevitable. He fights it systematically through consistent training, proper nutrition, adequate recovery, and refusal to surrender capability as he ages. Because capability is freedom, and freedom requires capability. Pillar 4. Intellectual sovereignty and continuous growth. The fourth pillar is maintaining intellectual sovereignty through continuous learning and rejecting the programming society attempts to impose. Most men stop learning after formal education ends. They stop reading challenging material. They stop exposing themselves to difficult ideas. They stop questioning their assumptions. They become intellectually stagnant, repeating received wisdom without examination, defending positions they inherited rather than developed. The new male era requires continuous intellectual growth because stagnation is death. Your mind either grows or atrophies. There's no maintenance mode. You're either expanding capability or declining into comfortable mediocrity. This means reading actual books, not social media posts. Books that challenge you, that expose you to ideas you disagree with, that force you to think rather than just consume. Historical works that reveal patterns, philosophical works that sharpen reasoning, technical works that build expertise, biographical works that show how others navigated similar challenges. The goal isn't becoming an academic. The goal is maintaining intellectual sharpness and independence. Reading widely prevents ideological capture. It exposes you to diverse perspectives that inoculate against dogma. It builds pattern recognition that lets you see through manipulation and propaganda. This means pursuing mastery in your domain. Whatever you do professionally or as your primary pursuit, continuously deepen your expertise. Study the masters in your field. Learn adjacent skills that compound your primary capability. Experiment with new approaches, teaching others what you know to solidify your own understanding. Mastery creates respect and opportunity. The expert in the room has options the amateur doesn't. The man who deeply understands his domain can't be easily replaced. This creates security and value that translates to freedom. This means developing critical thinking capability, the ability to analyze arguments, identify logical fallacies, recognize manipulation, distinguish evidence from assertion. This protects you from the constant propaganda attempting to control your thinking and behavior. Society profits from men who don't think critically, who accept mainstream narratives without examination, who follow prescribed paths without questioning where they lead, who consume what they're told to consume, believe what they're told to believe, behave how they're told to behave. The new male era man thinks independently. He examines claims. He demands evidence. He questions narratives. He develops his own worldview through careful reasoning rather than accepting downloaded opinions from media, education, or social pressure. This makes you dangerous to systems that depend on compliance. They can't control what they can't predict. They can't predict men who think for themselves, so they'll attempt to shame you for questioning, to isolate you for not conforming, to label you for maintaining independent thought. Let them. Your intellectual sovereignty is worth more than their approval. Your ability to think clearly is more valuable than their acceptance. Your independent worldview serves you better than their prescribed beliefs. And here's what happens as you develop this pillar: you become interesting. Men who continuously learn have something to talk about beyond sports and weather. Men who think independently have perspectives worth hearing. Men who pursue mastery have expertise worth seeking. You become a man other quality men want to associate with and learn from. This creates the foundation for the next pillar, because intellectual sovereignty naturally leads to purposeful contribution. Pillar 5, legacy building through purpose. The fifth pillar is identifying and pursuing a purpose larger than yourself that creates lasting impact. This is the pillar that transforms the new male era from self-focused improvement to outward-focused contribution. from becoming powerful to using that power for something meaningful, from building a great life to building something that outlasts your life. Most men never identify a genuine purpose. They mistake career for purpose, but career is just how you fund life. They mistake hobbies for purpose, but hobbies are just how you pass time. They mistake relationships for purpose, but relationships are just one component of life. Purpose is the answer to a different question. What would you build, create, or contribute if money and approval weren't factors? What impact would you make if you knew you had 10 years left? What would you want to be remembered for after you're gone? For some men, purpose is building a business that solves problems and provides livelihoods. For others, it's creating art, music, writing that enriches culture. For others, it's teaching and mentoring the next generation. For others, it's solving technical problems that improve lives. For others, it's serving their community in tangible, lasting ways. The specific content matters less than the orientation. You're building something that transcends your immediate gratification, something that serves others, something that lasts beyond your lifespan, something that justifies the time you had on Earth. This isn't altruism. This is enlightened self-interest. Because here's what I've observed. Men without purpose, no matter how comfortable or successful, eventually feel empty. The pleasure fades. The toys lose appeal. The comfort becomes boring. Without something meaningful to build toward, life becomes an extended exercise in killing time until time kills you. But men with purpose, even difficult purpose, even purpose that requires sacrifice, they have energy. They have motivation. They have reason to wake up and push forward even when it's hard, because they're building something that matters beyond their immediate experience. And here's the secret about purpose. It has to be chosen, not assigned. Nobody can give you purpose. Society's prescriptions for what your purpose should be don't work because they're not yours. You have to identify what genuinely calls to you, what you'd pursue even if nobody noticed, what you'd build even if nobody applauded. This requires honest self-examination. What are you naturally drawn to? What problems frustrate you that you're uniquely positioned to solve? What skills do you have that could serve others? What legacy would make your time on Earth meaningful? Once you identify it, everything else becomes a tool to serve that purpose. Your time ownership lets you allocate hours to purpose. Your financial independence funds purpose. Your physical capability sustains you through purpose. Your intellectual development sharpens your ability to execute purpose effectively. The 5 pillars work together. Each one reinforces the others. Each one makes the others more effective. Together, they create a life of such depth and meaning that external validation becomes irrelevant. The integration, living the new male era. Now let's talk about what this actually looks like in practice, because theoretical frameworks only matter if they're implementable. The new male era man wakes up with purpose. His day isn't reactive, responding to others' demands. His day is proactive, pursuing what he's intentionally designed. He trains his body early, building physical capability. He works on his purpose, creating something meaningful. He invests in his intellectual growth, reading or learning something challenging. He connects with quality people who add value to his life and benefit from his presence. He's not checking dating apps hoping for validation. He's not scrolling social media wondering what everyone thinks. He's not waiting for someone to give his life meaning. He's building meaning through intentional action. And here's what happens as this becomes your norm. You stop caring about the dating market, not because you're bitter, but because you're busy, you're engaged, you're fulfilled. You've built something so valuable that adding a relationship would need to enhance it significantly to justify the cost in time, energy, and freedom. This doesn't mean you're opposed to relationships. It means you're not desperate for them. You're not settling for relationships that diminish your life quality just to avoid being alone, because you've discovered you're not alone. You're surrounded by purpose, growth, contribution, and genuine fulfillment. And paradoxically, this is when you become most attractive, not when you're pursuing women desperately, but when you're pursuing purpose contentedly. Because women sense desperation, and it repels them, but they also sense contentment, and it intrigues them. The new male era man doesn't pursue women, but quality women notice him, because he's different. He's not performing for approval. He's not desperate for validation. He's not available for games. He has a life that works, and that's rare enough to be magnetic. But here's the critical part. He doesn't compromise the life he built to accommodate women who weren't there when he was building it. He doesn't dismantle his peace to accept chaos. He doesn't surrender his freedom to satisfy someone else's demands. If a woman wants access to his life, she needs to enhance it. She needs to add value. She needs to respect what he's built and contribute to it rather than extract from it. And most women can't or won't meet that standard, which is fine, because he doesn't need them to. The implementation path. Let me give you the practical implementation path, because knowing the pillars intellectually doesn't help if you don't know where to start. Start with pillar 1, radical ownership of your time. This week, track every hour. Write down what you're actually doing with your time, not what you think you're doing. What you're actually doing. Be honest. Include the scrolling, the Netflix, the useless conversations, all of it. Next week, examine that data and ask, what percentage of my time is intentionally allocated toward what I value versus reactively spent on what others demand or mindless consumption? For most men, it's shocking. Maybe 20% intentional, 80% reactive or wasted. Your goal over the next 90 days, flip that ratio. Get to 80% intentional, 20% reactive. This requires saying no to most requests, requires eliminating time-wasting habits, requires protecting your schedule like it's sacred because it is. Simultaneously start Pillar 2, financial independence. List your debts, list your expenses, calculate your margin. If it's negative or minimal, you're in crisis mode. Cut expenses ruthlessly, increase income aggressively. Attack debt like it's the enemy because it is. Set a goal, 6 months of expenses saved as emergency fund. Once that's established, begin investing 15% of income consistently. Don't try to time markets or pick stocks. Just consistent, boring index fund investing that builds wealth slowly and surely. Simultaneously, start Pillar 3, physical capability. If you're not training, start this week, not next week, this week. 3 days of resistance training, 2 days of cardiovascular work. Doesn't need to be fancy. Push-ups, pull-ups, squats, and runs work fine. Just start. Simultaneously, start Pillar 4, intellectual growth. Pick one challenging book per month. Read 30 minutes daily. That's 12 books yearly, which is more than most people read in a decade. Choose books that challenge you, that expose you to ideas you haven't considered, that sharpen your thinking, and start contemplating Pillar 5, purpose. You don't need to have it figured out immediately, but start asking the questions. What calls to you? What would you build if you could? What impact would you want to make? Let those questions simmer while you build the foundation with the other pillars. Within 6 months of consistent implementation, you'll be unrecognizable. Within a year, you'll be living a completely different life. Within 2 years, you'll look back and wonder how you tolerated what you were accepting before. Final thoughts. Let me tell you why this video matters more to me personally than any other content on this channel. Because I've watched men implement this framework and transform completely. I've seen men go from depressed and defeated to purposeful and powerful. I've seen men go from desperate for female validation to genuinely content with lives they built themselves. And that transformation, that reclamation of male power and purpose, that's what this is really about. Not about hating women, not about isolation, not about bitterness, about becoming so powerful in your own right that you don't need anyone's approval to feel valuable. I get accused constantly of promoting male toxicity or encouraging men to give up, and I'm done defending against those accusations. Because the men implementing this aren't toxic and they're not giving up. They're the opposite. They're building, creating, contributing, thriving. They're just doing it on their terms rather than society's terms. And society hates that because men on their own terms are unpredictable. They can't be controlled through shame. They can't be manipulated through guilt. They can't be coerced through fear of loneliness. They're free. And free men are dangerous to systems built on male compliance. So let them hate it. Let them call you selfish for prioritizing your growth. Let them call you toxic for maintaining boundaries. Let them call you whatever they want. Because you're building something they can't touch, can't diminish, can't take away, a life that's genuinely yours. This channel exists because I got tired of watching men sacrifice themselves for relationships that don't serve them, for careers that don't fulfill them, for social expectations that don't benefit them. I got tired of men accepting less than they deserve because they were programmed to believe that's their role. So if this resonated, if these 5 pillars make sense to you, implement them, not someday. Now, this week. Start tracking your time, start eliminating debt, start training your body, start reading challenging material, start contemplating purpose. And as you do, connect with this community. Drop comments about your progress, share what's working, ask questions about what's challenging. Because you're not alone in this. Thousands of men are building the new male era simultaneously, and we benefit from each other's experiences, insights, and encouragement. Subscribe not just for more content, but because you're committing to this path. Because you're choosing to become the most powerful version of yourself, because you're done accepting less than you're capable of becoming. The new male era isn't coming, it's here. You're either building it or watching others build it. Choose to build, choose yourself, choose power on your own terms. The 5 pillars are your roadmap. Everything you need is here. Implementation is on you. Start today.